Greetings and welcome, everyone. We're back today on a beautiful June, what is it, the 3rd or 4th? I forget, Michael.
4th.
It's the 4th, thank you. June 4th, 2022. And Michael has labored very, what can we say, meticulously to give us this series, A Biblical View on Conspiracies, and we're on session 34, Secret Service, and then there's a German word that Michael must pronounce because I can't. Welcome, Michael.
Yeah, welcome, Brad. Hello, dear listeners. This is part English, part German script of the Biblical View on Conspiracy, especially on the JFK assassination. This is called the Secret Service. In German, it's called die Geheimdienst. That's the same word for the same agency. Yeah, because we have talked about the JFK ritual, and it has not finished because that will constantly been evaluated, that script. But before we go into the low nut scapegoat whatsoever, Lee Harvey Oswald, we have to have an intermediate session about the secret services, so we know that what we are dealing with, because that is some very interesting method that secret societies work together with secret services. And these secret services, they have secret methods that are not aware of the general public. And I think that now that then we will go into Lee Harvey Oswald, who was also been a member of a secret service, believe it or not. We have to examine their methods first so that we can have then the right conclusions, or in other words, that you can follow my conclusions and don't think that I am the low nut from Germany then, okay? So
Thanks,
this is
Michael.
the Secret Service.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny how they always want to frame the topics or frame the debates that we are supposed to absorb ourselves in this society, you know, this so-called global society that we live in, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the secret societies and the secret services, they are playing hand in hand.
Yes.
You have to realize that.
Well, that's the tough thing. I think that generally the people don't want any of the bad news, you know, they either they'll figure it out for themselves or they just don't want to hear it, you know.
No, I just want to live on a pony ranch. That's right. What I always been exclaiming and explaining in German, that the people do not hear the truth. You cannot handle the truth because people intend to live on a ponyhof and in a pony farm.
About that, Michael, is you know, I could make a nice long couple paragraphs about exclaiming what, you know, you should expect by clicking on one of our more recent videos or any of our other videos about, you know, we can't really recommend, well, Michael and I were talking in great detail about this earlier. We can't really recommend anything because, look, we want to equip you, the listener, in learning how to discern these things on your own with the Holy Spirit in mind, according to Scripture. And Michael and I are right in line with that, and we would wish that we could encourage others. And that's really what, you know, that's what our ministry is about, I believe, Michael, is encouraging the brethren to look into these things, and we're just here to point them out. You know, we're the watchmen on the wall, so to speak, right, Michael?
Absolutely. Yeah. You see, everybody serves another purpose in the body of Christ, but I think that our purpose is quite clear. We are in the age that we have some kind of a life experience, and we are in the age that we are doing research for decades, and so we would like to share our points of view based on biblical truth and based on the facts who are there, and then you can decide how to combine the two with another. And that's what I'm trying to do here with the collaboration of my American beloved brother Brett, who is in the United States a little bit early up this morning.
Oh, not too bad, you know. It was a good morning this morning, Michael. I had some of my own favorite medicine. I can tell everyone that I like. once in a while to have potatoes at night, because there's a book that I had, a friend of mine, well, I should say an acquaintance of mine. I've lost this friendship, by the way. He had something called chronic fatigue syndrome, and he just would not ever look into, like a raw diet and eating like raw onions and things like that. He hated that stuff. I'm like, well, that's your problem. You really got to think about your diet. And, one of the things, I got this book called Potatoes, Not Prozac. And it's basically about, how if you eat potatoes at night, and this is in a nutshell, it'll help you with if you have any bouts with depression or anything like that, it'll actually help you. So, once in a while, I'll just have potatoes, not because I'm depressed, just because, I like them. And I woke up really well today. I felt really well rested. Of course, I don't use an alarm clock, and that's kind of rare, I think, these days for working individuals, Michael. That, it's just such a blessing to have a job where I don't have to have an alarm clock. It's not the case for everyone, that's for sure.
No. But speaking of alarm clocks, let's start with the old picture of an old television apparatus. Somebody who's then having the strings of somebody who's playing tricks on you by reading something called news. But this is just, there are many, many people behind the scenes, and usually you have to think for yourself, where do we need a secret service for, and secret societies as well, if we are living in an open and free democracy. The problem is that the democracy or the republic or what else, this is an illusion. Here in Europe, let me tell you, we are on DEFCON 2 at the moment because of the Ukraine-Russia war, because 3 days later, Russian state television Channel 1 said, allegedly, that World War III has already started and that the war in Ukraine, which was a rehearsal for a bigger conflict in the future. So we are on DEFCON level warning system 2. Frightened to death. So we are not living in a democracy, because we have to sort out the facts. We have to find the truth, because the truth is not being handed over by the media. You see that there are so many real causes for the war in Ukraine. They are both financially, they are both economically, and there are many, many, many more religious primary reasons to start the war in Ukraine. For example, the prophecy of Fatima, but I don't want to go that route. I just want to point out that secret societies are always behind the scene, and the first thing which is dying in war is the truth. It says, the German saying, it says the first thing that dies in war is the truth. And so it's not democracy, it's democracy, more or less, I think. So it's
just like climate change, Michael. It's the political climate. Yeah, of course they're going to have to put us at DEFCON 2. So you must be afraid of us.
Yeah, it's always fear-mongering. That's the
fear
main
of man,
and primary
the snare,
scream.
the Bible tells us, doesn't it? Yeah.
You see that democracy, democracy. Yeah.
You're right. Exactly. Demolish craziness.
Yeah. You see where
it's
to
a
start.
synergy, it's an antichrist system, isn't it?
We have to start somewhere, and I apologize for being German, not American, because I just look it from the German or European viewpoint. There was a book from years ago from a Swiss historian called Daniele Ganser, which says NATO secret armies in Europe, who are then playing out these terror attacks. And so that is not a secret anymore, because books have written about that. For the Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti on the 3rd of August 1990, he confirmed the existence of a secret army with the name of Gladio in Italy. Gladio means sword. It's a part of a stay-behind network of the NATO, which has been built up by the CIA and the MI6, so the foreign secret services of the United States and United Kingdom. Yeah, you see, there are many secret societies around, and secret services especially, run by the government. In Italy, for example, it's the SISMI, Servizio per Informazioni di Sicurezza Militare. Yeah, the service for the information of the security of the military. Yeah, and so that is also been the same as the German, the Bundesnachrichtendienst, which means the Federal News Agency, but it's not a news agency, it's a secret service. Which has been built up by the SS Nazi General Reinhard Gehlen, who also had built up the American Central Intelligence Agency. Yes. No, I'm not mistaken. That's the same guy, actually. Reinhard Gehlen. That's absolutely mandatory to go into him, because he was not only one of the high-ranking German generals in the Second World War, but he also did create the CIA. Yeah, he sought cooperation with the Central Intelligence Agency, resulting in the Gehlen organization ultimately becoming closely affiliated with the CIA. Yeah, sure, because Germany was officially being occupied by the Americans, and that guy as well has some ties to the JFK assassination, but it's too early to go into this, and it's also hard to find out. But also, this is one, according to his biography, he also set up the Israeli secret society, the Israeli secret service, Mossad. I've read it myself, and Jörg has read it too. Yeah, so actually this is hilarious when you think about that German Nazi from the Second World War been then erecting the CIA, because the CIA forerunner was the OSS. In the Second World War, there was no CIA, it was just called OSS, Office of Strategic Services.
Correct.
Yeah, and so he was passed over from the Nazis to the Americans, then from the Americans to the Germans again, then building up their foreign secret service, and then he helped establishing the Israeli secret service as a former Nazi. You have to be very bad in history if you don't get the joke in it. Yeah, when the Nazi is helping the Israelis. Really sorry. You see that these people are just exchanging their uniforms, but actually the mindset and the spirit which is guiding them is absolutely the same. It's of course the Antichrist spirit. Yeah, it's just doing everything for money and fame and fortune. So let's go back. Yeah. You see, the usual spies are not people like James Bond. Because usual spies means that you hand over and pass over information in exchange, and that you have valuable information about the occurrence and about the things of other states, especially when they are not very befriended to your state. So that is actually not a big deal. It has nothing to do with all the fancy gadgets in the James Bond movies. Yeah. You see, all these people are being connected to terrorist attacks. For example, the terrorist attack of Bologna in Italy in 1980, on the train station, 80 people were dying, 85 people dying, more than 200 were injured, and two original officials of the SISMI, of the Italian secret service, they were judged because they were avoiding the clearing up of the case. Yeah, they were punished for that. Yeah. So this is the symbol of the SISMI. Yeah, and you see, once again, it has something to do with water and something to do with the pentagram. And most of the things are under the ocean or under the surface. Yeah, so you don't see any of it, or the most of it, which is under the sea, hidden from the public eye. Very interesting. Arcana means secret. Yeah, arcana intellecgo. Yeah, arcana means secret, once again. And if you think about the sea, then we know that the Didi Plaza and the World Trade Center bear something in common. They both have the symbol of Neptune or Poseidon. the old god of the sea, which is also the god of the underworld, because you see that if he is the god of the sea, then you can't see what is under the sea with your naked eye. So that means there is something hidden. And this is very interesting. Of course, Didi Plaza has been built upon the former grounds of the Trinity River, and the World Trade Center has been built near the Hudson River, I think it is in New York, where that famous pilot then was having a rescue flight when he was having trouble with both of his engine failed due to birds hitting the engine. If you remember that some years ago, Brett, don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I sure do. Oh, yeah.
So that's the Hudson River, I think it was in New York, huh?
Yeah, correct. I remember the video footage from that when that happened was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
Seeing all of those people out on the wing, exiting the plane and going to safety, that is just a miracle from God, as far as I'm concerned.
See, if that really happens, because everything can be manipulated nowadays, but if that really happened, that would be one of the few people who really would have deserved an honorary medal of something.
Correct.
Like that.
I agree with you, Michael.
Yeah, to be that calm in such an emergency situation, that requires a great deal of confidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you see that in common does have the Secret Service of the Italians, or one of the Secret Services, that something is under the sea, and which is always the same as the fork here of the Neptune's trident. And also trident can have something to do with the Trinity. So that the symbol of the pagan Trinity of three gods, Father, Mother, and Child, which is not depicted here in that symbol. Yeah, but you see that for Italian Secret Service to come up with the pentagram. Okay, we're not in the United States, we're not in Russia, we're not in China, and we're not in Vietnam. All these states bear or bore a star, 5-pointed star, but Italy does not. So, okay, very interesting. Let's look at it from that perspective. That the trident is a symbol both of religious, because it's symboling a pagan god. It must be a religious symbol, yeah, and that is the same symbol which has been used in the Didi Plaza, and also as well as the World Trade Center, as well as there is some reference of water, or below the water, under the sea, of Italian service, and so that we have to take it into consideration that they are playing tricks on us, because most of the things they do are hidden from our public eye. For example, if you go into that infamous Deagle list, when they proclaim the outcome of the population in 2022, a decrease of the of many states, then you see that is also been approved by the Department of Defense, because Deagle happened to be some individual, if I am informed correctly, happened to be one employed member of the Pentagon. So do you really think that they would put out valuable and very important information out in the open by some Deagle list? Deagle explains himself as a guide to military equipment and civil aviation. Yeah, there is some military. Yeah, so they don't want to let you know their secrets. So that I know that the server also is not in the United States, and there's many fishy things about that Deagle list. I think more or less it is part of psychological warfare.
That very well could be, Michael.
Once again, this is just fear-mongering.
Mm-hmm.
Especially suited to Germans, because there's also a phrase, I think it is especially also been known in the United States, like kindergarten, so a fixed phrase which comes from a German word. It's called German Angst, yeah, so which means German fear. Yeah, we are also fearing, we are so obeying our government, oh, please protect us, Yeah, you see, it's really hard that, it's really rare that you find German people who are really using their brains. Yeah, so it's just fear-mongering. But, and it's a big but, I stumbled across Economist front page, which said May the 21st, so that is just recent, 2 weeks ago, the coming food catastrophe. And if you look closely to that picture here, you see
Skulls.
Skulls, yeah, skulls in that.
Like skull and bones.
Yeah. But you don't have to, you see that is also, of course, fear programming or fear mongering, but that has some biblical resemblance. Let's look it up. It is Matthew 24.
Yes.
In verse 6 and 7, which I think describes our current situation quite perfectly, Brett.
It sure does. And it reads, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows," Michael.
Yeah, so we should not be surprised, because the only thing that the evil side or the dark forces or whatever you would like to call them are successful in the satanic world is when they act according to the script. And the script of the Bible says that there will be famines and pestilences and earthquakes. So they have to create famines and pestilences and earthquakes. It is not been indicated in the Bible that God is sending famines and pestilences and earthquakes. If I remember and I understand the Bible, it has just been pointed out that there will be.
It's the outcome.
This is the script. Yeah? So there will be famines and pestilences and earthquakes. So that also will be a part of we will see later in that session here. But famines and pestilence and earthquakes, okay, maybe that you can store that in your short-time memory. I would try to do the same. When you're going through diverse places, you find so many interesting things. I was coming up in a book from a Canadian doctor named Ghislaine Langtot, very unknown. And she says, and that is also valid for our session of Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy also, that his former foreign minister, Robert McNamara, who happened then also be the director of the World Bank, he says he knew at that time how the pharmaceutical rabbit runs. Quote, in the French publication J'ai tout compris, or I understand, the former US Secretary of State and head of the World Bank, Robert McNamara, explains, one must take draconian measures to enforce a reduction of the population against its will. Reducing the birth rate had proven ineffective. Therefore, you have to increase the death rate. How? Through natural means such as starvation and disease. Source, the book The Medical Mafia, Ghislaine Langtot, 2002. Yeah, that's the book. I would have never run across that book, but you see, it's Robert McNamara. It has something to do with the Kennedys. Yeah, he was the foreign minister at that time. The Medical Mafia, I found that very fitting because mafia are Italian mobsters who are working also for the Vatican. A very interesting combination, maybe. And that is that very woman. Very interesting videos she does, the triangle of hell. And she says it becomes obvious that the only way to payment that is sure is the cash. Yeah, and that's what they will avoid and they will forbid and will restrict in the future. So that's a very smart woman. I have not looked into all of her videos, but I found that quote very interesting when it comes down from the member of the Kennedy government. So the Operation Neptune Spear. Remember Neptune being the god of the sea and of the underworld, and the Neptune's fork or the trident, the symbol of the Dealey Plaza and the World Trade Center. It was the Neptune Spear, was some organization of the United States President Barack Obama in Pakistan, where they allegedly...
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. Where the Navy SEAL Team 6 allegedly have killed Osama bin Laden. It's very interesting. You see, Obama is the good guy, Osama is the bad guy. It's just one. Yeah, it's just one letter here difference. Huh? So the founder and the leader of the terror organization Al-Qaeda, and they will be responsible for the terror attacks 9/11. Yeah. So the code name of that operation is about the trident of the Roman sea god Neptune, which has also been incorporated in the special warfare insignia of the United States Navy SEALs. Yeah, it is then indicating to the special unit. Yeah, this is the trident here. And I said, sorry, wait, this is disinformation on the Wikipedia page, because since when are the Navy SEALs been armed with tridents? Yeah, because usually I happen to come across the Navy SEALs with guns, helicopters, grenades, rockets, knives, whatsoever, but I've never seen a Navy SEAL with a trident. Have you, Brad?
Nope. Never.
Okay, so then it is not an indication for the special unit here, but it's an indication, yeah, to Rome. Rome, yeah, because Neptune is the Roman god of the sea. It is very obvious, I think, my line of conclusions, huh? Mm-hmm. If you cannot follow my line of conclusions, then I got another hint. This is the former Pakistani Prime Minister called Benazir Bhutto. In the Frost Over the World issue in 2007, she says, Omar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. But the problem is that then, later on, in that same year, she was murdered or assassinated too. You see, Benazir Bhutto says bin Laden is dead. The original YouTube video, we have stumbled across that in a former session of the conspiracy series here, they have gotten rid of the audio at that moment. So you can barely hear anything. Yeah? On purpose. Yeah? But she clearly says that Omar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. And afterwards she made that claim she was being murdered too. So now we got a problem. Yeah? People say that is not my claim, since the Pakistani government didn't want anybody to know that Osama bin Laden had been killed already. Yeah. And every time and everywhere you look, then you see that Benazir Bhutto was been assassinated on the 27th of December 2007. But the problem is that Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan, in the same country where Benazir Bhutto was the prime minister, on May the 2nd in 2011. So maybe he was being murdered twice. Or the allegation of Benazir Bhutto was incorrect, but it's very strange that when you do an allegation and afterwards you will be assassinated as well. Very strange, huh? Very strange. So that is a difference of about 3.5 years now. So the question is, did they really have been killed Osama bin Laden, or have they killed a scapegoat? Have they killed a doppelganger? Have they killed a body double? Have they killed anybody at all? Or was it just the right time for the right thing to do? Yeah, and what happened to Benazir Bhutto? Why was she assassinated? And she said that there was Osama bin Laden was already dead in 2007, because she must have made that statement before 2007, obviously. Okay, so that's a problem. You see that they play tricks on you. Operation Neptune Spear, which means, oh yeah, that is spear of the Roman god. It has nothing to do with the SEALs. You see, Osama bin Laden also was killed on the ground. He was not killed on sea or under the sea. Yeah, he was maybe officially be killed by the Navy SEALs, but that does not explain why the Navy SEALs, they do not carry a Neptune Spear, because you see, there's all a Roman reference here. So they are playing tricks on you. They are playing tricks on you. United States of America, the CIA, yeah, they have some special indication here. You see that it's not only for collecting information, but counterterrorism, covert operations, hostage rescue, targeted killing. Yeah, so these people are being paid to kill. Yeah, so that must be a satanic antichrist organization. Targeted killing. Special operations, unconventional warfare. Yeah, also against the own inhabitants, the own people. Yeah, Operation
It's called guerrilla warfare, Michael.
Yeah.
unconventional warfare is guerrilla warfare. There is no difference.
Yeah, and you see, you really, Brett, on the official Wikipedia page, they tell you Osama, that the Special Operations Unit killed Osama bin Laden, the founder and leader of the Al-Qaeda terrorist network, believed responsible for several attacks. Believed. That's a religion.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. You got no court, you got no rule, you got nothing. Yeah.
You could also call it an ideology, Michael.
Yeah, but you see that what is that kind of a democracy? When you can send over your own troops to a foreign land, accusing somebody of being the founder of a terrorist attack group and being responsible for the killing of 3,000 people in the World Trade Center, and then killing somebody. Yeah, is that your thinking what democracy actually is? Without a trial, without proof, without a court, without a jury. Yeah, bang, believed to be. Yeah, so it is a religious warfare. What George W. Bush said, this crusade, it's going to take a while. It's a crusade. It's a religious warfare, believed to be, and then with the insignia of a Roman god. Oh, this is so obvious if you are really being educated with symbolism and educated with the Bible. You know what's going on. Yeah. The operation's codename referred to the trident of the Roman sea god Neptune, which is also included in the United States Navy SEAL Special Warfare insignia. Yeah. Roman. Mm-hmm. Romerica. Mm-hmm. Once again, trident. Yeah, you see, it's the same trident as if in Dealey Plaza and World Trade Center. Not saying that the Navy SEALs built the World Trade Center. Yeah, but there is a reference to pagan gods. And of course, it's not only a reference to pagan gods, but the World Trade Center, nevertheless, also, if you happen to look very deeply into that, look at the World Trade Center attack. Maybe we can fetch that from a very interesting perspective. Because I stumbled across a picture, that picture here, which I found very good. Yeah, you see this, these are male objects here, and these are female objects here. And through this female object, the traffic is going. Yeah. And what else to say? That you are entering now the district of Mammon. Yeah, in God we trust. It's a God of Mammon. It's a God that has been indicated on your backside of your $1 bill. So in God we trust. This is God or the Mammon, speaks the Bible. You cannot serve two masters. Either you can serve one or the other, but you cannot serve God and the Mammon. And what else is the World Trade Center than to make money? Even by destroying that, they made money. Okay, let's get it on here. So the CIA and all this small secret societies and secret services, they do have also these operations and civil wars and Yugoslavian wars and Vietnam wars, etc. And they're being accused of being a primary cause in the assassination of Kennedy. Yeah. So all that trident symbols, this is also not by accident, because you see the trident of Poseidon. Yeah. The trident of Poseidon. Oh, I could have incorporated here. Yeah, or Neptune's trident. Trident. Neptune, Roman god, once again. Yeah, so the trident. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the trident of Neptune. Let's take this. So the trident of Neptune, once again, and its Roman equivalent Neptune, or Poseidon, has been their traditional divine attribute featured in many ancient deceptions. Once again, the trident of Poseidon and its Roman equivalent Neptune has been their traditional divine attribute featured in many ancient depictions. Poseidon's trident was crafted by the Cyclopes. I said, oh, interesting. Yeah, this is a Cyclope, Brett. The 1st century head of a Cyclops from the Roman Colosseum. Yeah, these are creatures with one eye. And this symbol of the one eye you find on your $1 bill, one eye, $1 bill, and you find even in the German town of Würzburg as the eye of Providence. yeah, with sun rays. Ah. And the eye is then been also encircled here from a pyramid. Yeah. Oh my. It is so obvious, actually. Yeah. Officially, it's been said that these trident has been crafted by the Cyclopes. Yeah. So the trident is also then another form of a symbol for the one-eyed God. The Special Operations Group is a department within the SAC responsible for operations that include clandestine or covert operations, which with the United States government does not want to be overtly associated. We do not know anything. We don't hear, we don't speak, we don't tell. As such, unit members called paramilitary operations officials and the specialized skills officers do not typically wear uniforms, because you see that even your neighbor could be a spy. If they are compromised during a mission, the United States government may deny all knowledge. SOG is considered the most secretive special operations force within the United States, with fewer than 100 operators. The group often recruits personnel from special mission, Jesuits, unit within the United States Special Operations community. And that soldier claims, I know who I killed, homie, every time. Yeah. Do you know that there are several body doubles of Osama bin Laden, and you know who you killed? First of all, you commit murder. I know that has been made officially by the government that you have to kill somebody, but that guy, if he claims that he killed somebody, is a murderer, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Can't be a Christian then, yeah? And he murdered somebody who looked like Osama bin Laden, because according to the official statement of Benazir Bhutto, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, or the former Prime Minister, bin Laden was already dead. So most likely he just killed a body double. Maybe he knows that he killed a body double, and I don't know. Yeah. So just get it on, because it has something to do with Kennedy, of course. Yeah. So this Neptune, this Roman god of the sea and the underworld, which is, of course, the one who was holding the trident, WTC, DD Plaza, these secret societies, secret services, etc. It's the god of fountains and waterfalls in Roman religion. Yeah. And also he's the lord, or the god of the underworld. Welcome to Dallas once again, the fountain place. On the Elm Street, the street of death. Driving here would lead you to DD Plaza. So once again, symbols are key to solving crimes. Because it's Roman gods, Romerica. And this trident, of course, is very interesting, because the trident is always a trinity. And trinity is the official name of the first atomic bomb in July 16th, 1945, in the United States of America, by Mr. Oppenheimer. Now I become death, the destroyer of worlds. The destroyer. What is the name of the destroyer in the Bible, in the book of Revelations, Brad? Do you remember?
Oh, I think, let's see, would that be...
Starts with an A.
Yes, Apollyon.
Yes.
Thanks for the help, Michael.
Yeah, you see that it's all connected. It's all connected. It's always a Roman god. He's the destroyer of worlds. Quoting from the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, of course, not from the Bible. Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, that's the holy scripture of the Hindus. Yeah, so of a pagan god, once again. Yeah, always you see pagan gods. Yeah, Manhattan Project. And I came up with the idea, and I said, why do they call that Trinity? It's just about a pagan Trinity. But then Jörg said, okay, they did drop 3 atom bombs, one in USA, one in Hiroshima, and one in Nagasaki. I said, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Life can be very easy, huh? Yeah. So Trinity. And a Trinity symbol is that kind of a pyramid, once again, or a triangle. 1, 2, 3, Trinity. Yeah. It's always the same. You see that. Why do they call that Trinity? Of course they didn't know that they would drop the bombs on Japan. Yeah. So this is the official insignia of the killing of Osama bin Laden. The Operation Neptune Spear. 1, 2, 3. with the Latin phrase. Oh, we will never forget.
And a pentagram.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, instead of a pentagon, instead of a pentagram, they used a pentagon. Oh, you see, it's always the same. They use Roman gods. Yeah, they use Roman language or Latin language here. You see how obvious it is. Is it a Latin operation or is it American operation? Yeah, it seems to be a Latin or Italian operation here. Yeah, it's an Italian god and it's Italian or Latin language. That's sorry. That's too obvious, huh? That's so obvious. Yeah, Neptune spear. Yeah, so they tell you, but just a little bit and in a encoding language. 10 years of monitoring and planning. Yeah, sure. When the Pakistani former prime minister knows that he's dead, then the United States intelligence service does not know it, huh? And when she says that on the television, then the United States military and intelligence complex did not get a grasp on it. Oh, really? But maybe there is some involvement of the United States military and intelligence service when it comes down to the events in the life of Benazir Bhutto 2007. But let's face it, we can never prove that. Also, the Freemasons are using the Neptune symbol, of course. Why else would they have come up with that design of Elm Street, Main Street, and Houston Street in the Didi Plaza Freemason temple, huh? Of course, Neptune Lodge, once again. So that you see, of course, that the Freemasons are being run by the, what to say, not only by the Egyptian gods, but only by the Roman gods. Oh, very interesting. Yeah, there's also a great degree, which is a 26th degree of the Scottish Trinitarian. Yeah, so you have it all over the place. Trinity, Poseidon temples, everywhere. Yeah. Lodge of Serbia, Poseidon temple. Yeah, Poseidon is the Greek equivalent to Neptune. Okay. So looking at the Freemason pyramid, there are some steps on top, which is which is not carrying anything. Usually you think that, oh, this is just one eye symbolism, or then on the top, above the 33 degree, but I would not agree on that, because we know that the Freemasonry has now been officially overviewed by other companies. And let's face it, this has had nothing to do with Freemason. Freemason is just a distraction, like the Illuminati. Yeah, it's also this distraction and deception. So the Warren Commission, for example, there are a bunch of Freemasons. It's Earl Warren, the highest judge in the United States, 33 degree. Gerald R. Ford, later president, and then the speaker of the group, also 33 degree. J. Edgar Hoover, FBI, 33 degree Freemason, and most of the people are Freemasons. But the representative of Hale Box, the only Catholic on the commission, Warren Commission, so it is the official commission to research the assassination on JFK, at first agreed with the findings, and when he later began seriously questioning them, he was accidentally killed in a plane crash. A site is allegedly handing over that. We cannot prove that, but it's very interesting now, because now you look at this, please. Thomas Hale Box disappeared on October the 16th, 1972, was an American Democratic politician and a member of the United States House of Representatives from New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans happened to be the town where Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald was also been before he then was moving to Dallas. He was the House Majority Leader and a member of the Warren Commission. In 1972, while still Majority Leader, Box was on a fundraising drive in Alaska when the twin-engine airplane he was traveling in, along with Alaska Congressman Nick Begich and others, disappeared en route from Anchorage to Juneau in Alaska. And then Jörg struck me out of a sudden and said, do you know who Nick Begich is? Yeah, you see, the son of Nick Begich has made a very interesting video, and it's called Angels Don't Play This Harp. And I said, oh, this harp. Aha, harp. There is something to that. That is not the regular harp, but harp means a high-frequency active auroral research program initiated in an ionospheric research program jointly funded by the United States Air Force. The United States Air Force is that kind of an army division, who said in the 1995 or so paper, how to control the weather in 2025. And we're just about it. And do you remember in the biblical verse of Matthew 24, when Bradford just read about earthquakes, then you should now be on alert mode. Not on DEFCON, but on alert mode. But that is very interesting because he was together with the Congressman Nick Begich, who was the father of this guy who has made that interesting video, Angels Don't Play This Harp. And he says that he was stumbling across a scientist for the weather modification who was a science advisor to Lyndon B. Johnson. And hence the quote of Lyndon B. Johnson that he says that he who controls the weather will control the world. And then you put that in perspective to Matthew 24. And then you got all your alarm bells at the same time ringing, at least in your head. And the quote of Lyndon B. Johnson was 1962. It is 60 years ago. Can you imagine the progress of technology in 60 years? Can you imagine what kind of a computer did you had and what kind of smartphone did you had in 1962, Brad? If you would live there.
Oh, you'd be lucky to have a Texas Instruments calculator.
Yeah.
To do arithmetic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. There you go. There's your computer for you.
Yeah. This will also be part of a soon, or not so soon coming episode of Science is the New Religion, of course, because it's just spectacular. It's everything to do with the Bible, because they have to find the means to create earthquakes. This is the script. So they have to find a way to create famines. They have to find a way to create pestilences and earthquakes. So,
and not only earthquakes, but in diverse places.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they will get rid of your food. They will get rid of money. They will get rid of supply changes. Supply chains. They will come up with strange bacteria, maybe, and they will come with weather modifications and earthquakes. What are earthquakes? Yeah, and so you see that when you all combine it with HARP, then it suddenly makes, I think it makes much sense. But you will have to wait until the science series will be continuing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so John F. Kennedy was a ceremonial king who had to die. And it's very strange because he was not being killed by the Russians, although the scapegoat has been claimed to be a communist sympathizer. He was not killed by the Cubans. He was not killed by the CIA. He was, of course, being killed by the head of the CIA or the mafia, but by alchemists. Or he was being killed by people that you will never see. And we will see that it has all such a religious background once again. And I came across that when I was once again in the script of the King Kill 33, which has not been finished yet, but we will finish that on a later occasion when we go into the Lee Harvey Oswald case. And it's very interesting because I stumbled across that President Kennedy, if that is correct, yeah, so that is just a hypothesis here, he was for some reason chosen as the king, yeah, of course, because he did not obey his master, of course, after the fashion of James G. Fraser and Mary Renault, the king must die, he had been given to read before his death, if that is correct. That would be a hilarious find. Because Mary Renault wrote in 1958, 5 years before the assassination took place, she wrote that book called The King Must Die. Mm-hmm. And I thought that is very, very strange. The King Must Die. Mm-hmm. The King Must Die is a 1958 historical novel by Mary Renault that traces the early life and adventures of Theseus, a hero of Greek mythology. Of course, it is set in ancient Greek: Troyes in Corinth, Eleusis at Athens, Knossos in Crete, and Naxos. Okay, let's go on and on and on. In the fourth book of the Wikipedia page of Creta, it's been said, the boat sets course for Crete, and Theseus is content to be sacrificed to Poseidon. which is the Greek equivalent to Neptune. Should I have inserted here the DD Plaza? Theseus is the hero in that, and he is content to be sacrificed to Poseidon. If John F. Kennedy has been given that book here, that is very interesting because it has a resemblance to be sacrificed to Poseidon, which is, of course, the same symbol as Neptune in the Roman mythology, if that is correct.
Say, Michael, let me understand this right. You're saying that this book was given to Kennedy?
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but I'm just quoting a website who said that there are hints that he has been given that book, and that book has been written 5 years ago.
All right, so it isn't a fact, more or less.
No, it is not a fact, but it is a hypothesis that he has read that book. It's a hypothesis, yes, correct. Yeah. But that would make sense, you see, that all makes sense to be sacrificed to Poseidon, because that is, of course, the shape of the DD Plaza, the Poseidon's trident.
Right.
Or the Neptune. You see, Poseidon is the same in Greek as Neptune in Roman. It's the same. Okay? So that could be also one hint. The killing of the king in Dallas, so sacrifice king, according, of course, to our researcher. Oh, what's the name again? Who was killed? William Cooper. The killing of the king in Dallas was related somehow to the touching off of the world's first atomic bomb at the Trinity site in New Mexico 18 years earlier. 18, huh? Interesting. Yeah, Trinity. Huh? It's also a character of the Matrix. And the Matrix, they've also been lying to you and they're speaking it out that you're living in a Matrix, but many people, the majority of people, they actually prefer to live in the Matrix because they cannot handle the truth. So it is not my hypothesis. It's just a hypothesis I found on the internet, okay? But it's very interesting if you see that also in the dead picture of the dead shot in 313, it has an orange color. Orange always also is the color of the 33-degree Freemason, and it is the color of fire. And he was, of course, being sacrificed to the god of fire, because also on his grave and also on the statue of Osiris in the DD Plaza, there's the eternal flame. We will come to that quite later. The Trinity test happened to be 18 years and 4 months and 1 week before the Kennedy assassination. Fear-mongering once again. And also you see that's a trident, or this is a triangle actually from the Trinity. Trinity, triangle is always the same. Or it's always the same. It's just symbolism. In DD Plaza, it is the Trinity River, you see, Trinity River here, which has then been separated in 3 separate or 3.5 separate rivers here. And Dallas is here. And usually the Trinity River ran through DD Plaza before DD Plaza was created. And to create DD Plaza, they had to get rid of the Trinity River, and they had passed it by a little bit more to the north also. I cannot remember. I think it was to the north. So Trinity, of course, Trinity River. When Trinity River runs through Dallas, Trinity. Or then it is quite obvious why they have used that trident symbol for the DD Plaza. At the same time, it's not only the symbol for the Roman sea god or the Greek sea god or the Greek or the Roman lord or god or pagan god of the underworld, but also for the Egyptian Trinity, where the Freemasons actually refer on Isis, Horus, and Osiris, and not Isis, Horus, and Set, I-H-I-S or I-H-S. The father, the mother, and the child. It's the same as the Babylonian Trinity, and always the same. So the Trinity test, of course, the Trinity seems to be more like a code that it has been originated by some pagan gods, actually. Because it's not only the symbol for Neptune, Poseidon, but it's always the symbol for the pagan Trinity. And you should not be surprised when the Volkswagen will come up with an electronic car, the Project Trinity, in 2026 with 700 kilometers, which that car allegedly could sustain with one charge. Trinity, yeah. So Freemasons only run the show on the outside, on the exoteric. Yeah, that's also one exoteric side. When you think that you see that the one eye symbolism is not been created by the Freemasons. No. So that Kennedy was not slain by CIA, Mafia, Castro, LBJ, Teamsters, or Freemasons. It just happened in the Freemason temple. Yeah, but you see that if you want to have that hilarious, you can also say that the president had shot 129 times from 43 different angles by 26 gunmen. You see, you will never come to the truth in the end. Yeah, but it's just always the same. Yeah, it's Trinity River, it's Trinity, it's water god Neptune. It's always the same. It is always the same. Yeah. Kennedy also is a Gaelic word for ugly head or wounded head. So it all would make sense. It all would make sense. Yeah. And it happened, of course, on the 33-degree latitude. So let's keep it here. Sometimes it's just not funny. And there are a bunch of disinformation agents also in Germany and somewhere else. So let's go to the nitty-gritty. Some websites claim that the ritual of JFK, and you don't be misled by thinking that would be an official picture here, that the ritual was only being pointed out because Neptune was in Scorpio for the astrological reference there. It has nothing to do with that, because Neptune in Scorpio is more than a decade, so it does not make any sense to attribute that to JFK only. But the audience believes the media is trapped in Wonderland because they do not want to wake up in a false reality like Plato's cave. I would agree on that. I would agree on that. You see, you have to use symbolism to explain all the things. 9/11 is Apollyon, as Brad so rightfully stated. And the Lone Star can not mean anything but Lucifer, Satan. Yeah? So that is.
So the Lone Star State is referred to as Texas. Yeah.
What the symbol of Texas? It's a 5-pointed star.
Well, yeah, you got the largest obelisk in the world right there in the port. I think it's a port in Texas, isn't it?
Largest obelisk in San Jacinto, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, the Lone Star. That's the star says, "Oh, I'm so alone because they have thrown me out of heaven." You can explain everything, but the problem is you will be lost in all their mythology. You can also look at the OTO. You see the one eye symbolism, or the eye of Ra, or the eye of Horus. It's always the same. It's always the same. They're using the same, actually. They're using the same method. They're using a special calendar, maybe, but it's you see, you can explain everything by mathematical calculations. Yeah, you can explain it by so many things. But I just want to show you. That it's all the same, because it's just a pentagram. It looks a little bit more stylish. It's a pentagram and a hexagram in itself. That's the official logo of Thelema religion of Aleister Crowley, Satanist. Yeah, Thelema means will. 93. So 93 is a numerical value of Agape and Thelema, and so you find the flight number 93 memorial. Yeah, not by coincidence 93. If you believe in coincidences, then that channel and that series is nothing which could help you. But we are not talking about any coincidences. We're talking about a system here, a system of secret societies encoding languages, encoding messages. Yeah, you see that even the people in this chat and even on their website are using what kind of a symbolism? I would say that it's kind of a trinity or trident symbolism with the sun in a circle, and the sun in the center here. And you see that it's nothing new, and the Ouroboros and the cross and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but they are just using pagan symbols for pagan gods, for example, here. I don't care if you call that Neptune or what else. Yeah. The problem is in the occult word and the secret word, the problem is, I said here in German, inside a closed system, everything seems to be logic. But it's just that you don't have any reference. Yeah? Because when you measure it against the reference of the Bible, then the awakened man realize the indoctrination. And that's why I presume that they will get rid of the Bible, or of big parts of the Bible, maybe of the Old Testament and all of the things, so that people don't have any foundation and only have any reference to it, so that they cannot judge what is right and what is wrong. Because upon the Bible, you can judge what is right and what is wrong. So don't get lost. I'm trying to be of help. But it's just very, it's so enormous, the JFK assassination, because we have to look at it from a different viewpoint to really understand what they are trying to set up after the killing of Kennedy. Yeah. You see, they are playing around with the things. Are you ready for Freddy? It sounds hilarious, and the movie is funny. And I'm so scared. But Nightmare on Elm Street means the nightmare on the street where JFK was being murdered. And Elm Street is the street of death in mythology. Yeah, the usual cinema visitor does not know anything about it. They just want to be entertained. They just want to be entertained. I'm skipping it here because it would be too much to go into every single detail. But let's look at the obvious things. That is the second part now of the session here. And I know that Brett wants to keep me going, because it is very strange, and I found some very interesting things on some websites. And when you connect the dots, then it will be now. It's really starting to make any sense, or now it's really starting to go into the Kennedy assassination with combining the assassination on Abraham Lincoln. In the 1951 movie, The Tall Target, there is a character named John Kennedy, played by an actor who died earlier the same year, about the murder of Lincoln, with the character Ruby Dee, or the Ruby Slippers, or James or Jack Ruby, or Rubenstein, the Wizard of Oz, Paula Raymond, which is also the same name as Raymond in the Manchurian Candidate, and an actor called Will Geer, without an R, because when it would be William Greer, that would be the driver of the presidential limousine. Once again, going into just teeny tiny bit into this, because we will go into the assassination, we will go into limousine, we will go into the Secret Service, we will go into the Zapruder film, we will go into this, I can promise you, but now just the nitty gritty. The driver of the limousine has been accused highly, also from William Cooper and from other sources, that he was being highly involved in the assassination. I would agree that he was involved, but I think that served another purpose than the usual people would come up with. I will explain that also in detail. At the moment, it is important to know that he looked against the usual procedure. He looked back instead of accelerating the car. That is quite obvious, also from the Orwell-Nix film. The obvious thing is that the car has been named SS-100 for the Secret Service, 100 years between Lincoln 1860 and Kennedy 1960. When you look upon the actions or non-actions of the agents who were there to protect the Kennedy, also the President of the United States, who did not their duty, it is very interesting to learn that no agents were disciplined for their performance during the shooting. Privately, Jackie Kennedy was bitterly critical of the agent's performance, Greer in particular, comparing him to the Kennedy's children nanny. Greer later apologized to her. It is absolutely important to see that all the Secret Service has failed, and I would say that they failed on purpose. And they did not only fail, but they did do strange actions which they are not ought to do. So they did not only sleep, but they did strange things. And so you see that the Secret Service itself is an organization with a hierarchy, of course, and one lone agent would not do anything against the hierarchy. So that is the actor Will Geer. Not Will Greer, but that would be a very cool reference, but it is not suitable at this moment. But there's not much more to that film. It's called The Tall Target. There's also a character called Homer Crowley, and Homer is the name of the Greek poem of the allegedly creator of Ilias and the Odyssey, or Odysseus, which most likely has never existed, because Homer is, of course, also some created name as Sacro Bosco when we were looking back on the Science is the New Religious series. And Homer Crowley, to name anybody Crowley, in 1951, when the Satanist number one, Aleister Crowley, died in December 1947, if I remember correctly. That is a very strange coincidence, with all the things. So Kennedy is in that, Crowley is in that, Geer is in that, Ruby is in that, all in that movie. And also Mr. Crowley happened to be a secret agent, especially in the First World War, in the book Secret Agent 666. So once again, in that movie, you see a guy called John Kennedy. You see a Will Geer who was playing Homer Crowley. And this is about the assassination attempt on the President Abraham Lincoln. So you see, you got here a connection between Kennedy and Lincoln, which is usually not very known. But we will clear it up because it has nothing to do at this moment with John F. Kennedy, but with the former chief of police in New York City in 1860, who was named John Alexander Kennedy. So that John Alexander Kennedy, that's a picture of him. He was the superintendent of police of New York City from 1860 to 1863. So when Abraham Lincoln was being elected president of the United States. In the book of Michel P. Roth, Historical Dictionary of Law Enforcement, we discover that it has a very interesting remarks on several things of the law enforcement. For example, who was responsible for the use of power hoses and police dogs against black demonstrators led by Martin Luther King on the streets of Birmingham. Yeah, so you see that the people who are then the police chiefs, and so it's very interesting. On page 156, we read, with the election of John F. Kennedy and the ascendancy of his brother Robert to Attorney General, it seems that Edgar Hoover's days, so the chief of the FBI, were numbered. It has been speculated that despite the rancor between Hoover and the Kennedys, he kept his job because he had secret files on the two brothers. Waiving the mandatory retirement age of 70, Hoover was reappointed by Presidents Lyndon Johnson, so the benefactor of the assassination of Kennedy, and Richard Nixon, who were both present in Dallas the night before. Hoover had created a so-called counterintelligence program, generally called by his acronym COINTELPRO, to investigate communists, but expanded it in the 1960s and 70s to target radical student groups, the Black Panthers, and civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. especially. In 1920, the 25-year-old Edgar Hoover was initiated as a Freemason at DC's Federal Lodge No. 1 in Washington, rising to a 33-degree Inspector General honorary in 1955. This COINTELPRO program was a secret program of the United States FBI from 1956 to 1971. So when was Kennedy been assassinated? In 1963. When was his brother assassinated? In 1968. When was his younger brother having that Chippewa accident with Mary Jo Kopechne? In 1969. So that is very interesting that Freemason had been running the FBI with secret things behind the scene. Psychological terror and violence. These were secret police methods of the Stasi, which was the secret police of the former Federal Republic of Germany, or East Germany, if you say so. Yeah, that is COINTELPRO. So that also had its ties to East Germany. And the CIA, the Foreign Secret Service, they had overviewed and monitored people in the so-called Operation Chaos, which was against the Constitution. But Operation Chaos, it's most likely also has something to do with the Freemason motto, Ordo ab Chao, the original and complete rituals of the ancient accepted Scottish rites. And the Scottish Rite, of course, we have seen at the Scottish bagpipe players at the 50th celebration of the death of the killing of JFK. They were not celebrating his birthday, they were celebrating his death. Yeah. Operation Chaos also was a covert operation of the American CIA for 300,000 opponents of the Vietnam War inside of the USA. And there was some journalist called Seymour Hersh who has got an insider tip for the Pentagon. But let me tell you, when the press has been controlled, and we know that from several sources, then there are no investigative journalists, Brett. These people have been playing tricks on us because they have been fed with some inside information which they ought to have, so that it appears as if there is free speech and free press in your country and as well in other countries. There are special people only for counterintelligence and to fool the people so that they're being distracted. For example, one of the main characters, which we will learn about in the Oswald coming up sessions, would be James Jesus Angleton. That was the leader of the counterintelligence. So these people are highly ranking people who are then officially been responsible for all this covert operations and disinformation. Yeah, and this James Jesus Angleton, he was in Italy. He was in the Office of Strategic Services, the forerunner group of the CIA, and he was in London, and then he was the chief of the counterspionage in Rome in the Second World War, and after that he was being the chief of the OSS and then also in Italy. And then he was one of the founding officers of the CIA. So these people, this is one of the main people responsible for the covering up of the JFK assassination. Yeah, you have to really realize that it is a secret organization behind the scene, and a secret organization behind a secret organization, to really see to what extent they will avoid any cover-up of the things that even until this very day, many documents are not open for the public because of the national security. What does that mean? That means that the government is playing tricks on the people. That means that the government has something to hide. Mm-hmm. And this James Jesus Angleton said to the journalist of Joseph Tremto in 1985, she said that CIA had killed 10,000s of good people, and we were playing with lies as if they would belong to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were also sending suicide attempt letters to Martin Luther King to move him to commit suicide. This is, if that is correct, you see that you have to doubt anything. But the thing is that this J. Edgar Hoover, who was the chief of the FBI, was then also overseeing the cover-up of the JFK assassination. Yeah. In Middle America, Hoover was seen as a semi-god or demigod. Yeah, so he was untouchable. He was untouchable. He says he was, allegedly he was the mightiest man in the United States. He was serving the state under 8 American presidents. From Calvin Coolidge to Richard Nixon. That is J. Edgar Hoover. Yeah. So coming back to the movie, The Tall Target is a movie about the attempted assassination on Abraham Lincoln, an adaptation of the first try to get rid of him in the so-called Baltimore plot. So when he was elected president, he was moving from New York. You see, in New York at that time there was a so-called Mr. John Alexander Kennedy, who was then responsible as the chief of New York police. And he had to go from New York to Washington, D.C. to his inauguration. And the Paddington plot was a conspiracy in late February 1861 to assassinate President-elect Abraham Lincoln en route to his inauguration. Alan Pinkerton, a Scottish once again, founder of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, played a key role by managing Lincoln's security throughout the journey. From that video, How the Pinkerton Agency Laid the Foundation for the FBI and CIA, we read that Mr. Pinkerton was enough of an agitator to earn himself an arrest warrant in the United Kingdom in 1842. A few years later, in 1849, he became the first police detective in Chicago. So he fled to avoid this warrant from the United Kingdom to the United States. And then he moved aside from somebody who has acted against the law. He was then changing the sides to somebody who was protecting the law. Oh, yeah. His agency built its name mainly by working with railroad companies. I said railroad companies. Oh, that is very interesting. Did we learn in the last session that the majority of Freemasons were among the railroad workers?
Oh, boy. Really?
Didn't we learn that the railroad workers, they had the premier view on the JFK assassination on the Triple Underpass, when then nobody was allowed to be there, but they did not care because then on the Triple Underpass, I have to look for a decent picture here. Yeah, that's a great picture. Yeah, because then at the time of the Kennedy assassination, there were several people there, yeah, who claimed, of course, that they were seeing smoke from the grassy knoll. Yeah, yeah, but these railroad workers, don't underestimate any railroad workers. You see there, these are several people here, and there's the smoke on the grassy knoll. So once again, the Pinkerton agency built its name mainly by working with railroad companies, providing services ranging from investigation and private security. A disguised Mr. Alan Pinkerton has contributed a secret meeting, where a certain barber called Ferrandini boasted about how to get rid of Abraham Lincoln. After hearing this, Pinkerton arranged for Lincoln to travel by a secret train. And he was the first one who used female agents and bodyguards to the president, but they also gathered military information, of course, because you see there was a civil war going on in America these days. The state of Ohio banned this Pinkerton agency, fearing the agency could act as a private army because they were so large. There were gatherings of thousands of men, armed, of course. And organizations like the FBI and the Secret Service and the CIA took on the roles afterwards. Yeah, so now these services are divided. Yeah? FBI, Secret Service, CIA, NSA, etc. The Pinkertons, however, they continue to serve as the protectors of industrial bankers and corporations. Yeah, and nowadays, the Swedish company of Securitas is having, I think, the majority of share of the Pinkerton agency. Yeah, very interesting comment I found. It's spot on. He says, Pinkerton flees the law and starts an agency that hunts those who flee such great irony. Yeah. So these are hard guys, these are hard people, but it's just the other side of the coin. This is just the other side of the coin. And you see, the FBI was founded in 1908. So at the time of the assassination on the president, happened in 1865, there was no FBI and no CIA. They were just private armies or private protectors or detective agency, and that was Pinkerton. Yeah, who then had the order to protect Abraham Lincoln. And also, the United States Secret Service did not exist in 1861. Nowadays, the Secret Service, who was responsible for the protection of President Kennedy, happened to be 6,500 employees. I said, oh no, not 11 again. But of course, that's the nature of the game. So the assassination, the Baltimore plot, says that video, there was just only one person for the job. It was Alan Pinkerton. A man searched for with a warrant in the United Kingdom. Okay. And that is that picture of Alan Pinkerton on the left. And that is Abraham Lincoln. He's the only one who's not afraid of the cold, because he's showing his bare hands, or his hands here. Yeah, the other guys here, they're making the symbol of the hidden hand, or the master of the second veil. If it comes down to what kind of religion? Yeah,
Masonry.
Yeah, it's so obvious. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Among the team was Kate Warren, the nation's first female detective. And there is also that quote that this barber called Ferrandini was at the Barnum Hotel, where he met Mr. John Wilkes Booth, who happened to be the assassinator of the final attempt to kill Abraham Lincoln, succeeded in the Ford Theater in 1865, and he happened to be also a Freemason. So that means that Freemasons were there to protect Abraham Lincoln as well as he was being killed by one Freemason. What an irony, huh? In the book from Terry Alford called Fortune's Fool about John Wilkes Booth on page 248, On the darker side, Booth admired Charlotte Corday, who stabbed Jean-Paul Marat, the French revolutionary leader, in 1793. And the more contemporary name of Felice Orsini worked magic on him. Orsini was an Italian nationalist who attempted unsuccessfully to assassinate Napoleon III in 1858, when Booth was his first acting season, oh interesting, huh? In Philadelphia. Orsini was captured and beheaded. When news of his execution reached New York City, a nighttime procession in his honor through the principal streets of the city was given by 2,000 people carrying torches, etc., etc., etc. So this barber is also a connection between the Barnum Hotel and between the John Wilkes Booth. And therefore, Mr. Allen Pinkerton, he warned Lincoln not to appear in public in Baltimore because plans were afoot to assassinate him. He knew that from a meeting together with the barber, who then claimed that he should get rid of Mr. Abraham Lincoln. Nowadays, of course, it will be disputed what the real reason is, and they will never tell you that it was a religious reason. Ferrandini is standing as if clutching a dagger, from Allen Pinkerton book, The Spy of the Rebellion, 1883, page 65. Yeah. So when it comes down to historians, one claim, oh yeah, he was responsible for that. The other said, no, the barber has nothing to do with that. Of course, you will never get the truth. You will never get the truth. But you see that you have to not to rely on fact checks. This is John German fact check. They say, no, it has nothing to do with the Vatican. It has nothing to do with the Jesuits. No, it has nothing to do with that. It is just only the priest Charles Chiniquy who came up with his memoirs, and he was a close friend of Lincoln. That's why, and it has nothing to do. And he was very private when it comes to his religion. I don't think so. So there are no proofs. The German newspaper says that the church has something to do with the American Civil War. No, it has nothing to do with that. You should read books. Yeah, you should read books. In the book Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln by Thomas M. Harris, for example, this book is freely available on the internet as a PDF. Yeah, you see that you can search any page, but the wily Jesuit sympathizing, you see that there's everything to do. The wily Jesuit sympathizing with him in his political views and in the hope of destroying our government and establishing the Confederacy, which had already received the Pope's recognition and expressions of goodwill and sympathy conferred upon it, had been able to convert him to Catholicism and to deceive him into the belief that this medal would conduce to his personal safety and the success of his enterprise. He had no doubt been baptized into the Catholic Church. This medal at once marked and identified him as a convert to Catholicism. Now we have Mary E. Surratt, John H. Surratt, John Wilkes Booth, Dr. Samuel Mudd, and Michael O'Laughlin, 5 of the leading active spirits in the execution of the plot to assassinate belonging to the Roman Catholic Church. Mary E. Surratt and John Surratt, her son, both of whom were zealous slaves of the Pope and clearly proven by the evidence given before the commission and by that given 2 years later on the trial of John H. Surratt in a civil court, to have been leading and active members of the conspiracy. But that is a problem, that you won't find that on the internet, on Wikipedia. You won't find that. You have to read books to know this. These are only some books out there who are absolutely telling another story than the official story from Wikipedia. And please pardon me, but I cannot read so many pages now that you really see what is going on. But the mother, the Mary Surratt, was the mother, was a woman who offered her home as a meeting place for the assassination plot. And her son was fleeing, and he said that, oh no, he has nothing to do with that. He did not even know anything about it. Of course, he's the son, and he does not know what his mother is intended to do, to kill the president. And then he was fleeing to Canada, and it's very interesting that also the Bishop of Montreal, of course, they were aware of the things, of the plans. A bishop, come on, has everything to do with religion, everything to do. Yeah, so it is just about this Mr. John Harrison Surratt, who was an American Confederate spy, who was accused of plotting with John Wilkes Booth, so the real assassinator, to kidnap US States President Abraham Lincoln. He was also suspected of involvement in the Abraham Lincoln assassination. So the kidnapping would be in 1861 for the inauguration, and the second one, most likely, would be the assassination in 1861 already. His mother, Mary Surratt, was convicted of conspiracy by a military tribunal and hanged. She owned a boarding house that the conspirators used as a safe house and to plot the scheme. He avoided arrest immediately after the assassination by fleeing to Canada, remember the bishop I've mentioned before, and and then to Europe. He thus avoided the fate of the other conspirators who were hanged. He served briefly as a pontifical zouave, but was recognized and arrested. He escaped to Egypt, but was eventually arrested and extradited. But the time of his trial, the statute of limitations had expired on most of the potential charges, which meant that he was never convicted of anything. Oh, he has very good ties to the pontifex, I say, Brett.
Yeah.
And you know what he did later on? He worked as a teacher. Yeah, that's a papal zouave. Zouave means somebody from the infantry. My. On December the 6th, so about 5 years after the assassination really took place, at a small courthouse in Rockville, Maryland, in a 75-minute speech, Surratt admitted his involvement in a scheme to kidnap Lincoln. However, he maintained that he knew nothing of the assassination plot and reiterated that he was then in Elmira. I know nothing. Okay. Yeah. And later he took a job as a teacher in St. Joseph, Catholic school in Emmitsburg in Maryland. Oh, yeah. You know, when you have been betrayed. And when every source is telling you that there is no tie to the Jesuits or to the Roman Catholic Church, then you have not read any letter of Abraham Lincoln, it seems, who says this war, speaking of the Civil War, would never have been possible without the sinister influence of the Jesuits. It was 1 year before he was assassinated. Yeah. So you have to do your own research. From the books, The Suppressed Truth about the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln from Burke McCarthy, we read on page 24, the late Edwin A. Sherman, a 33-degree Mason of Oakland, California, in his book entitled The Engineer Corps of Hell, quote, Chas Silvestre, whose work he translated from Spanish, which says in part, such as the Jesuits always expelled, forever returning, and little by little, clandestinely, and in the darkness, throwing out its vigorous roots, etc. At times mixing in politics, agitating states, and making princes tremble upon their thrones, for they are terrible in their hate. Woe unto them when they turn upon him as an enemy. And that's a quote of a Freemason. Yeah, and that is in the book of Burke McCarthy. That is in that book. And that is that book that Burke McCarthy spoke about. The Engineer Corps of Hell, Rome, Sappers and Miners, containing the tactics of the militia of the Pope or the secret manual of the Jesuits and other matter intensively interesting, especially to the Freemason and lovers of civil and religious liberty, with theresoever dispersed throughout the globe, if there would be any. Yeah. Part first. The secret monitor of the Jesuits. Embracing a brief history of this society of thugs, with their secret instructions and code with an introduction by Charles Silvestre, the whole translated from the Spanish. That is that 33-degree Freemason. And in the second part, it gets more interesting. It says why Abraham Lincoln, the martyred president, was assassinated. The initial point of the conspiracy against him by the Jesuits in Illinois in 1856, the papal conspiracy against him and the Union while he was president, and the tragic fate of the victim on their foul plot, which was consummated on the 14th of April, 1865. Remember? The martyred president, which means that he was being killed because of his faith it was a religious killing once again, because if somebody says it's a martyr president, then it relies heavily on the Christian belief. And that you find in a book recommended by Burt McCarthy from a 33-degree Freemason. Yeah. And that is that symbol from the Pinkerton Agency. We never sleep. They could never sleep in the train because they had to protect Abraham Lincoln. And that's, of course, the same logo as in the one eye. Symbolism of the pyramid of the Freemasons. Yeah. So do you have any doubt that these are Freemasons protecting this president? And from that Pinkerton Agency, then the CIA, FBI is their offspring. Continuation. Pinkerton is on the left in the 10 picture. Yeah, and Abraham Lincoln is the only one who has not any cold hands, huh? And now he is in the right, seated in his one. He can be really relaxed because he's got an army of people in himself. Yeah, protecting the rich and the wealthy people. The agency acted as the arm of the government allies, the corporations in strike-breaking and intimidating labor groups. Pinkerton is seated here front row left with other detectives. Huh? Yeah, you see, it has something to do with policy. The Pinkerton, as his detectives were called, expanded their operations throughout the United States and were hired by the Union Pacific Railroad to track down train robbers, often called the bulldogs of the UP. United Pacific. They were feared. Yeah. The problem is he was a Mason, so his loyalties are not to Mr. Abraham Lincoln, but his loyalties are also to his lodge number 01 or what, to the Mother Lodge of Scotland. He was a Scottish man. Yeah. His choice of an emblem for his busy detective agency was evocative. Ye old all-seeing-eye, we never sleep. That you see also on his badge. There you go. And don't forget the bird or the eel. And that is the more modern logo. Once again, it's the one eye. And what is it? A part of a pyramid, a triangle, or what? It's always the same. Yeah, so Pinkerton's security service is a forerunner of the United Secret Service. All-seeing eye. Yeah, of course, he was a Mason. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, so his all-seeing eye, we never sleep, is just, of course, the original, more or less, at least in the American country, of the so-called term private eye or private eyes. You have a song from Hall & Oates, or that book here, Private Eye, or Private Investigator, if you would like to say so, like Magnum PI, Tom Selleck also. Or on that regard, on Humphrey Bogart, and all the characters were modeled after the Pinkerton Agency. You see the one eye symbolism. Yeah, and the Masonic hidden hand, it's always the same. It's always the same. Yeah, the Pinkertons are definitely Masonic. He was also deeply involved in the pursuit of Jesse James, who was, of course, reputed to have been both a Mason and a member of the Knights of the Golden Circle. With what kind of instruments do Freemason work, Brett?
Oh, compass and square, of course.
Yeah, you see the Knights of the Golden Circle, it's always the same reference. All-seeing eye. The Masonic all-seeing eye and evidence of their official documents and artifacts is also to be found on the back of the United States of America's dollar bill, of course. Yeah, and this is his grave, Pinkerton. Any resemblance to Dealey Plaza? Oh my, when the president has been covered and secured by Freemasons. Why? Oh my. Yeah. That's once again in the film The Tall Target. There is a quote of Lincoln. He says, was there a president who was getting to his inauguration as a thief in the night? And I said, oh, that sounds like a biblical motto, Brett, huh? Thief in the night. Yeah.
That's right. It does.
Yeah.
That's in one of the Gospels, I believe. When Jesus comes back, the second advent. Yeah.
Yeah, and all these people who then made this movie The Tall Target, where then came across the fact that there was a police chief of John Alexander Kennedy. All these people are also being related. Anthony Mann was the director. Anthony Mann is the same director as Quo Vadis. Where Goest Thou? Yeah, this Catholic propaganda movie of 1951 was shot in Rome. With Christopher Lee, we have spoken about that explicitly in Christopher Lee session. I don't want to be repetitive here all over again, but it's all deception in the Bible. There, it's hilarious because that movie depicts here that Saint Peter was in Rome and he never went to Rome. Yeah. So I would like to skip it because it was not based on the Bible but on a novel. Oh my, oh my, oh my. But never was in Rome. Yeah, Simon Peter never was in Rome. Yeah, Second Timothy says only Luke is with me, and I don't want to be repetitive here. It's always the same. Yeah, it's always the same deception. Yeah, Nero burning Rome. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nero burning Rome.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Nero burning ROM.
Yeah, we talked about that.
CD-ROM. Wait, that's the software for. Oh, yeah, right. It's pretty funny, Michael.
Yeah, when there were no USB sticks, there were CD-ROMs.
Yeah.
Why they called it CD-ROM? Read-only memory. Yeah, you see, they come up with any abbreviation, but it spells ROM. It is Rome or ROM.
That's true.
Yeah. Then why this been called Nero, huh? Nero burning Rome. It's always the same. Yeah. So are you ready for the last?
Yeah, it's almost as funny, but not actually funny at all.
No.
As Bill Gates heading the task force on what's. Having to do with health.
You can also say,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can also say Nero burning the World Trade Centers. Yeah, you see, that's a sacrifice when you burn people, and people were burned in the World Trade Center.
Right. Yes, that's right. Not just a few people, thousands of people.
Yeah.
And little did they know,
that
they were part of a sacrifice, a ritualistic sacrifice in that moment. No, it's a shocking truth. It's interesting, Michael. We had mentioned San Jacinto. That is a town in California, but it's also a monument in Texas about 13 miles east of Houston. So interesting, Michael. Interesting we bring that up because actually San Jacinto actually is Spanish for Saint Hyacinth, a Roman Catholic who was born in 1185, was born into nobility. And interestingly, in this article I found, in 1220, he had accompanied his uncle Ivo Konski, the Bishop of Krakow, to Rome. Here they met with Saint Dominic. At this time, Saint Hyacinth was one of the first to receive the habit of the newly established order of friars preachers from Saint Dominic, because his spirit. Okay, so basically it says here, because of his spirit for prayer and his zeal for the salvation of souls in the Catholic Church, that is, he was sent to preach and establish the Dominican order in his native land, Poland. So what do we know about the Dominican order, Michael? The
that they carried.
Dominican
Yeah.
order was the predecessor of the Jesuit order.
Mhm.
The Jesuits took over the position of the Inquisition from the Dominicans. So very, very deep history is involved with this monument with a gigantic obelisk, the largest one, I believe, in the United States, if not the world. With it, no, probably not the world, but the United States, with a pentagram on the top. And they call it the Lone Star State, Texas.
Actually, you see, you only have to go to the list of the tallest buildings to have the tallest
Right.
obelisk, because they serve the same purpose.
Sure.
Yeah. Then it is the Burj Khalifa at that moment, and they are building one other skyscraper, even containing the Garden of Semiramis. So they are building a tower for Nimrod at the moment. So that is also an obelisk containing people.
Now, if that is true, what you just said, that would be the biggest, one of the biggest insults to our Creator that I can think of, since, when we were back in the book of Genesis, I believe it was, the Tower of Babel was being constructed, and God saw it, and what did he do? He confounded the languages.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's
I talked about that
right.
some weeks ago, but I cannot find it now here instantly. But I know that is somebody
That's very
skyscraper,
interesting, Michael.
highest skyscraper.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned it before. Maybe we did a session and you brought
Yeah,
it.
we did. I cannot remember now. Tallest.
Yeah, I remember you bringing it up. It may have been something you'd mentioned privately to me, but yeah. No, I think we did a session on that. I can't remember which session it was.
No, I cannot also.
But very interesting you bring that up, because that is a big, well, what can we say? I mean, the enemy is doing everything he can to mock and completely destroy God's creation, like the attack on the family, all of these different instances we find of, promoting sodomy, all the stuff that goes on. We're in the month of June, right? Mm-hmm. There's all these promotions going on for this event they call, this modern Sodom and Gomorrah they call Juneteenth. You've heard of that, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just revolting. So, yeah, it just fits with the current agenda, Michael, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you see, then this is live. I cannot really recall from memory, but I know that there was some Semiramis in it, and there was some garden in it, and that was. At the moment, they are building the Jeddah Tower, for example, which is about 3,300 feet in height. Mm-hmm. Imagine what's in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. But I cannot remember now, and I think we should continue now. Maybe I remember later on, and I will insert it here, but I cannot remember at the moment. So going back to the Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln thing, the tall target is a 1951 movie. We have learned that a police sergeant, who is the name of John Kennedy, tries to stop the assassination of Mr. Kennedy. And it's very interesting because there are so many references, because Frank Sinatra, of course, the friend of JFK and supposed lover of Jackie Kennedy, I don't know if that is correct, plays character John, who tries to assassinate the president. Also featuring CIA agent Sterling Hayden, who played Jack the Ripper in Dr. Strangelove, originally planned to be released on November the 22nd. Sinatra's song High Hopes from the movie A Hole in the Head. JFK's headshot was used in JFK's campaign. So Hole in the Head or High Hopes comes from the movie A Hole in the Head, and High Hopes was the song, the commercial for Kennedy as a president from Mr. Frank Sinatra, who has, of course, ties to the mafia mob. Huh? A Hole in the Head. I said, whoa. That is also a movie from 1959, so during the election campaign of Kennedy. And the director was Frank Capra. Frank Capra was a director and a producer of Italian heritage. Huh? And he has made some interesting things in the cinema. His family was, of course, Roman Catholic to the core, but that's not a big thing. That's Frank Capra, who did also be the director of A Hole in the Head from 1959 movie when John F. Kennedy was running for president. He also directed that movie, which we spoke about earlier before in one of the former sessions. It's called It's a Wonderful Life, with a headline of a newspaper called Smith Wins Nomination. And that, of course, is L.E. Smith.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was in
Famous
1928.
Alfred
or
E.
so.
Smith dinner, yeah.
Yeah, correctly. And now you see the most famous movie of the collaboration of James Stewart together with Frank Capra is not It's a Wonderful Life, but that movie. What kind of a Mr. Smith is he talking about who goes to Washington? What a coincidence, huh?
That's right.
It's all Roman Catholic propaganda.
For sure. Yes, of course.
Also propaganda.
Columbia Picture, yeah. There we go. Columbus conquered America, see?
Yeah.
No,
and the United States ambassador.
Columbus over to conquer for the Pope.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
The American ambassador, Joseph F. Kennedy, the father of JFK, said that movie is a threat for the United States. And the premiere of Mr. Smith was in October 1939, some weeks after the German attack on Poland. Yeah, it's really strange if you go into all this nitty-gritty here. Yeah. If you go into all this nitty-gritty, you see this, all these presidents, all these people who serve as a Knight of Malta. Here, Ronald Reagan, 13th of January 1989, knighted as a Knight of Malta. The same as Lyndon B. Johnson, 1962. Yeah. George W. Bush speaks about his crusade. It's all religious. Yeah, so these secret services are, of course, being equipped with members of a secret society, because it's all secret, and they have religious purposes. Yeah. It's all the same. You see that you can go in every nitty-gritty in every movie, and you will come up with the same thing, but with the same symbolism. For example, the second veil ride of the York ride, and Mr. Pinkerton did the same gesture on the famous tent picture with Abraham Lincoln. And it's not only Frederick Bartholdi, the sculpture of the Statue of Liberty, so to speak, or Joseph Stalin, or Napoleon, or the Pope, or who else? Who else? Who else? You see, it's all symbolism. You can get lost in symbolism. Oh, that was incorrect here. It's all symbolism. Yeah, this is female. This is female. Yeah, traffic passes through. That's a fertility thing then. But people just think, oh yeah, they made some great architecture. Yeah, sure. Another character which comes into play to the Kennedy assassination is, believe it or not, David Bowie. Yeah, no, he has nothing to do at first glance, but something to do with the mystic behind it, because also he was a fan of the Kabbalah. Because in that picture here, he's clearly depicting the so-called Tree of Life. And it's not only that, but because on his album called Station to Station, the title song has that lyrics. Here are we, one magical moment, such is the stuff from where dreams are woven, bending sound, dredging the ocean, lost in my circle. One magical movement from Keter to Malkut. There are you drive like a demon from station to station. That's David Bowie in the 70s. Yeah, and that's the same scheme, Keter to Malkut, from top to bottom. He's clearly depicting the Kabbalah. He was a mysticist, or he was what he was. You see that he was a cocaine user, but of course he was a Satanist. Yeah, you clearly can see that. And that is usual nowadays. They think that, oh yeah, these are the What else? Yeah, symbolism. This is from a German weather report when they are using some miners last year in April with the rainbow. Yeah, so that is quite usual. All the things with Osiris risen, you see that this poses crossed hands. If it is now here, I don't know who that is, Alice Cooper, if that is David Bowie, if that is Eminem, if that is Peter Gabriel, you see it's all the same. It's all the same. Bono. Yeah. Could be Lionel Richie, I don't know. Robbie Williams, Prince. Yeah, it's always the same. Yeah, it's the same that Alistair Crowley. You see, these people are always successful when they serve Satan. Yeah, it's the same with the Beatles. Help. Yeah, help. Yeah, it's the same all over the place. But people are not used in symbolism or in occult societies, and therefore they really believe that, guys. They really believe these guys. Yeah, I don't believe anybody. I do my own research, and I would advise you to do the same. It has something to do. All this stuff has also to do with pagan gods, of course. Yeah, Saturn is a pagan god. Mars is a pagan god. Venus is a pagan goddess. Mercury is sorry. Yeah, these people are serving Satan. So if you see the references there from the murder of Abraham Lincoln in the theater, when Harvey Lee Oswald was arrested in a movie theater, inaugurated 100 years earlier than JFK, and all the things which are happening then to the assassination of Lee Harvey Oswald, it is clearly the work of secret societies. And in the next episode, we will see what it's all about. What it's all about. So there are more degrees upon the 33 degree of Freemason. And one of the organization above on top is the Knights of Malta. Because the key people are members of the Knight of Malta. It's not only the father of JFK, but it's also the former CIA head, Alan Dulles. And Lyndon B. Johnson. Don't forget Lyndon B. Johnson. So I will look up. Okay. JFK was shot in a Lincoln car by Oswald. One of Lincoln's conspirators was named Oswald. Lincoln died in a theater. Oswald was arrested in the theater. So this is why should a suspect who was accused of killing the president go to a cinema? Yeah, please come with one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you like to get away as soon as you can? Instead, you decide to go to a theater because you do not know that there are many police sirens out there. And everybody is concerned about the killing of the president. Oh, you decide for yourself. You're having a good time going to a theater. Really. Yeah. See, we will close it down soon or now. Yeah. It's all a big ritual. Zapruder also was a high-ranking Freemason with that movie. And the film of him was bought by the Knight of Malta and Skull and Bones member of Henry Lucci and analyzed in his Time magazine, Saturn. It means time. The famous picture of JFK head wound. Yeah. On all the pictures of the captured, so to speak, assassin is Lee Harvey Oswald has a head wound. There are no coincidences, and in the next session you will see that, oh my, oh my, oh my. How do they trick you? These are all secret societies. Yeah, you're not living in a democracy, you're not living in a republic, you're living in a secret society chess game. And you and me, we are just the pawns in the game, like William Guy Carr so deliberately so explicitly mentioned. We are pawns in the game, nothing else. We are trying to get the big picture, but it's really hard to get the picture. And I hope that this session could lead you to the things that it's not only a secret service planning the things, but it's only a secret service planning in advance the cover up of the truth. Yeah. So there are.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. The suppression of the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the suppressed truth on the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. There's also suppressed truth of the assassination of JFK.
There you go.
That's what we are doing in the next session, with the help of the Bible and with the help of my friend and brother Brad Norman. So I would really love to close it down. I hope that you now see that there are many, many things going on behind the scene which are not published in the mass media because they are secret. Yeah, you see that secret societies and secret services, they are secretly playing their game of wars and rumors of wars and on famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in the near future. Thank you very much for having me. Until the next session, I'll hand it over to my brother Brett Maranatha.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, it's true. It's very difficult in this day and age to get a picture of what's really happening here on this earth in terms of, deception, being deceived, being misled, being mistreated, being misguided, being, well, let's face it, we're flesh. We're all have a fleshly body to maintain and keep healthy, yet at the same time, we have a spirit that is lacking often in enough information, be it biblical information, biblical knowledge, that really works against the flesh. So these two factors are at war with each other. They're not helping each other. They're hindering each other, just as we have these forces of media that fail to tell you what's really happening without a biblical view, because they really don't view the Bible as worth anything at all. Rather, they mock it and actually speak not directly against it, but they only use the doctrine as they see fit. They don't put it into the full perspective. And I guess, Michael, that's something we can strive to do, but really each of us as individuals have to come to that knowledge through the Bible on our own, with the leading and guidance, of course, of the Holy Spirit, which Michael and I were talking about privately earlier. And this picture we get of the world today, I looked up this tower, Michael, while you were doing the session, and it's called the Jeddah Tower. Is that correct?
Yeah, seems to be the Jeddah Tower, which is under construction at the moment, but I cannot...
Well, it's on hold. It's on hold. They started building, I forget, they were planning it back in 2010. I was just on the Wikipedia page. Yeah, here we are. And it actually says that they somewhere down here that it has references to the Tower of Babel. So, I mean, they admit it, but yet,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't see anything. There it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything about hanging gardens in Semiramis or anything, because I looked it up on...
That was not on the Wikipedia page where I discovered that, but that was some new agency or some newspaper also.
Cool. All right.
And maybe only in German. I don't know. I cannot recall anything. Sorry.
Very good. No, good enough. I mean, at least you got us on track to what it is, and it could be that they'll resume the building at some point. They might be resuming it right now, for all I know, but I don't know. I don't follow this stuff, Michael, and I think that's the point. I mean, in that regard, Michael is encouraging all of us, including myself, to do your own research, that we should, not believe everything we hear, but to check it ourselves and to match it up and to see if you've noticed anything that's out of the ordinary or it doesn't match up. And I think that's pretty much our obligation as watchmen, is to be aware of multiple accusations and assertions, and make sure that's the case before you just take it as gospel truth. Because, in the end, we're all going to be accountable for every word that we speak out of our own mouths. So we have to be very careful how we tread. And, that's also the big danger of making any kind of recommendation or suggestions even. And especially when you're dealing with the topic of Scripture, because it's the touchiest topic known to man. I mean, it's really our bridge to acquiring the living Spirit of God. If you ask me, Michael, you have this bridge to worldly things, and then you have the other opposite way, of course, is the spiritual things. And, either you choose to learn what the living God is all about in his Scripture and who Christ is, or you choose the other route, which is paganism or polytheism, or, actually worshiping Satan as he is. Because that is possible, and there are people that do that, and they associate themselves with actually lying and cheating and doing things that are very, very contrary to the faith that was once delivered to the saints. And we're talking about the saints of Almighty God, not just the Catholic Church. Because the Catholic Church claims to be the only true church on earth, when in reality they are what can we say, Michael? The synagogue of Satan. The just trying to think
you
of
see
how
that you see that's the same reference you see from the beginning. That's also the satanic family author, like
yes,
Alexandre Lavey told.
that's
So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, the
And did you see
television
that here in
stuff.
Illinois? In Illinois, they have a tripod design of a tower. It's supposed to be 1 mile high.
Oh, goodness gracious. What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have designs, but have they started construction?
No, no, no.
Of course not. 1 mile high, that's absurd. Well, even 1 kilometer, that's still just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Michael, I don't know. That thing looks a lot like, everything's starting to look like that um, Transamerica building there in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting, Michael. I live in the Twin Cities here, Minnesota, and I was driving through St. Paul the other day, St. Paul, and I noticed the old science museum was converted into a church of Scientology.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
That's
couldn't
correct.
help but get a good laugh out of that. Oh, all this is just incredible what's going on. I don't spend much time in the city. I'm not interested, really. But I was rather surprised to see that, actually. But anyway, yeah, Michael, here we have the scripture. You have Matthew 24, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Verses 6 and 7. And ye
Yeah,
shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Yes. Go ahead, Michael.
yeah, that's what I wanted to indicate and display in context here. You see that is the worldly news. Yeah, the coming food catastrophe.
Uh-huh. That's
And
right.
This is Matthew 24, speaking of famines.
So you have the fear of man, and then you have the fear of God. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
that's the beginning of wisdom, according to the book of Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would choose the fear of God over the fear of man any day. And dear listener, we hope you do too. That's the whole point of doing these sessions. It's to encourage our brethren to take heed. And what does it say here? Verse 6, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled. This is the real question here, Michael. Yeah, there's a lot of troubling things. They really bring us down, but in the end, all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. So we might think it's the end, but it's not the end yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So pretty much everywhere, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Michael, for doing the research and putting these sessions together for us. And as always, it's always, a new, what can we say, new topic, new directions. I never know where we're going, Michael, but it's always very interesting. So thank you very much, Michael. Look forward to continuing in the journey. And we'll see you then, Maranatha. God willing.